welcome back to my chaos. Coming to you this week at super speed. Yeah, we upgraded our internet, so now my voice is flying through the void faster than before. It's been a busy week here in the chaos corner. I'm actually running a day behind in my normal podcast schedule. We broke down and finally got a new car, which when you're buying a car is like stress on steroids. And then because apparently I like to challenge my sanity, my father-in-law gave us an old weight bench of his. So now I'm not only doing 5K training, we've officially added upper body to the mix. And 2 days a week, I rope my teenage boys into it with me, which gives me some bonding time with them, with eye rolls for extra spice. So yeah, new car, new muscles, same old anxious brain. Anyway, grab your beverage of choice and settle in. And let's talk about something a little bit more complicated than clean floors. Today, we're diving into OCD, what it really looks like, how it sneaks into daily life, and how I keep my brain from turning everything into a compulsive ritual. So let's talk about OCD, and not the cute, color-coordinated, I like my pens together in a certain order version that people love to joke about, or even the I have to sweep my floors every Friday routine. Being persnickety is very different from OCD. For me, and a lot of folks, OCD does not look like spotless floors or alphabetized spice racks. It's more like this constant background noise in your head. Rules, rituals, what ifs, running like an endless to-do list supplied by a gremlin. It's this gut-chewing feeling that if you don't do this one thing, something life-ending will happen to you or the people that you love. And if you try to just ignore it, it just gets louder. Or the bad thing your brain is warning you about just keeps getting worse and worse. That's the obsession part that a lot of people don't understand. Sure, you like your pens in order, but does your brain scream for hours that if your pens aren't lined up in order, you'll get cancer? Extreme, yes. But that's the reality of what OCD really is. So let's talk about the C, compulsion. Some compulsions are visible. Hand washing, checking locks, light flicking, counting, arranging things until they feel just right. But others are totally invisible. And that's where a lot of us call and talk about, we call it pure O. It's not a separate diagnosis, but it's a way of describing OCD when the compulsions happen mostly in your head. It's all internal loops, mental rewinds, reassurance loops, the kind of stuff that makes you look perfectly fine on the outside, but your brain is hosting the Olympics of overthinking inside. I remember during one of my peaks, because it's one of those things that comes and goes in waves, I would check my email probably every 5 minutes because my brain would tell me that I needed to check it because there could be a message in there that will ruin my family if I don't check it and deal with it. Here's the kicker about intrusive thoughts. If you've never had them, you're probably thinking they're just like passing ideas. You know, just a random thought that you shrug off with, that was weird. It must have been something I ate or saw on TV. But for someone with OCD, to us, intrusive thoughts they grab onto you. Like, you know, you just got out of a steaming hot shower and somebody set off a glitter bomb. No matter how much you try to wipe them away, they're gonna stick. They're random, unwanted, and sometimes disturbing. And yet your brain will treat them like gospel. It demands rituals or mental gymnastics so that it doesn't happen. And that can be a part of why OCD is hard to spot. You can mask like a pro, smiling, chatting, getting through your day. Like I said, with my checking email, to anybody else, I was just on my phone. They didn't realize it was the 300th time in the past 2 hours I had checked my email. You're internally negotiating with your own thoughts like it's a shady lawyer. Like, look, brain, as soon as this meeting's over, I will go recount my paper clips and make sure they are 10 so that I don't get fired. The mental gymnastics are wild. My brain will go, if you do this thing in this order, then that bad thing won't happen. And I'm like, oh, cool. I didn't know I was the universe's unpaid chaos controller today. But that's kind of what OCD does. It convinces you that those rituals equal safety. And undoing that wiring, that's a real workout. All right, welcome to our regular story of chaos. Stitch happens. This week, let's talk about a time I was smack dab in the middle of an OCD spiral. So you can picture this. I am dead center in the middle of my living room floor, armed with Dawn Power Wash, a scrub brush, and all my copper pants. And I'm ready to fight them like it's a heavyweight title match. Somehow I had convinced myself that if I just scrubbed hard enough, they would magically look brand new. Like a dish fairy was about to appear and bless us all with sparkle and grace. Spoiler alert, she did not. My kids are walking by like, Mom, why are you cleaning pans in the middle of the living room? And my husband's in his recliner, like side-eyeing me, clearly questioning every one of his life decisions that brought him to this exact moment. Meanwhile, I'm sitting there. Suds are everywhere. I am cursing like a mad scientist and honestly trying not to cry. OCD had convinced me that that pan, if I worked hard enough, was going to shine like it came straight off the shelf. And it was almost like I couldn't cook anything out of it or we'd be contaminated or something. Reality check, though, it looked like it had survived 3 wars and a camping trip. And during this, Mondo, which is my dog that has passed, he was my emotional support dog. Not really, he wasn't trained. It's just that's the way he ended up being. He just plops down next to me with this look like, lady, you're losing it again, but I'll supervise. And then he takes this big, deep puff so loud that he blew the bubbles across the floor. So now it's even like he's mocking this obsession of mine. The truth is, like I said, Mondo was just more than comic relief in our lives. He really was my emotional support dog. When you go through therapy, a lot of times it gets worse before it gets better kind of thing. You open up old wounds, you make yourself raw, and he was always there. And he always seemed to know when my chaos slipped from funny and quirky to dangerous. And he just would just ground me. So in that moment, it wasn't me versus the pan. It was me and my brain. And Mondo kind of holding the line. OCD wanted a shiny pan. And Mondo just wanted to help keep me grounded. And guess who won? When it comes to living with OCD, my secret weapons are humor, hobbies, and a really unhealthy relationship with caffeine. Honestly, espresso and sarcasm are like my unofficial treatment plan. Although caffeine actually can make anxiety worse, so maybe I'm shooting myself in the foot with that, but we will power on. So redirection's huge. Like when my brain starts doing the check your email, 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 I'll grab my crochet hook. Crochet is one of those perfect hobbies, video games too, because it gives my brain something repetitive, but productive to do. You know, I have to keep count of my stitches. I have to, track where I am in my pattern. It's tricking my mind to focus on something else. And when all else fails, I laugh about it. Because if I don't, I'll probably cry. And then I'll be crocheting a tear-stained dragon. But seriously, one of the biggest ways to break the stigma, even if you don't have OCD, is kind of to stop using it as punchline. Like I say, find humor in it. That doesn't mean make fun of it. There's a difference. Those little jokes about, I'm so OCD about my desk. They sound harmless, like obsessive Christmas disorder. But sometimes they make it harder for people who actually have this disorder to be taken seriously. It feeds into this false idea that OCD is just about being picky. Humor can help us cope, but not at the cost of reinforcing stereotypes. And honestly, this is where Hollywood has not helped me and my people out. Most portrayals of OCD are like the neat freak detective or the quirky genius who alphabetizes their trauma. I will say, I did enjoy the show Monk, though. Not just because it was a good show, but because it actually showed his compulsions with humor and his pain. Rarely do we see the sleepless nights, the mental battles, crying in the bathroom because your brain has convinced you that you are a terrible person for a random intrusive thought. OCD is not adorable. It's a full-time job. You have to manage the chaos and pain behind the curtain. And another thing people don't realize is OCD latches onto whatever you love the most. Your kids, your pets, your partner, your family. It's like the Grinch of your brain. It knows what matters most, and it uses that to hurt you. Intrusive thoughts can be violent. They can be sexual. They can just be plain horrifying. And they come with this crushing guilt because they make you think that you're a bad person, that you really want to do those things. And it's not that your brain wants those thoughts. Again, it's your brain hijacking the thing that you care about the most. And that's why it can be isolating. You don't want to talk about it because you're terrified someone will think you're a horrible person, when really you're fighting your own brain every day. So to you, here's a reminder. The people who actually do those bad things, they usually don't feel guilty even about thinking about it. Therapy can be really a game changer. For OCD, there's exposure therapy, and then there's CBT, cognitive behavior therapy. And that helps you challenge the rules that your brain keeps trying to rewrite. And there's meds, which can be a whole other journey. You got to find the right one, and trying to find the right one can be like trying to get your cats to follow instructions while they're asleep. Impossible. And then all of a sudden it works. But once you hit that right combo, it's an absolute life changer. I take Zoloft and hydroxyzine at night, and it was rough. Anyone who's dealing with that right now, there is a thread on Reddit. It kind of helped me see that it wasn't just me that were going through these issues with it. It's really supportful over there. But honestly, the more we talk about it with honesty and openly, the messy, the unfiltered, the real parts, even when they're painful or horrifying, the easier it gets for the people around us to understand that OCD is not about just being tidy. It's about trying to find sense in a crochet pattern that was written by a cat. All right, it's time for Brews News, where we spill the headlines over coffee because honestly, the world is not waiting for us to get caught up. Let's start in Washington and the shutdown. Okay. I'm honestly bypassing the first part of this in what I wrote down because it's already old news. That's how fast the story moves. The Senate passed a bill. The House passed the bill. From what I've seen, the government will be reopened soon. I really recommend, I've said before to you guys, I watched Midas Touch and stuff. There were some sneaky things added into this CR that was approved. Like somehow 8 senators snuck in a provision that grants only them a lot of money. And this has nothing to do with funding SNAP or healthcare. It's a payday for them. Go to your news source or go to the government websites. You can find out the exact wording for that. I don't want to misquote anything. As far as SNAP goes, again, what I have here is almost old news. But I do want to note the Trump administration, during their arguments for why they should freeze SNAP benefits, it was an actual argument, it's in the paperwork, that if they were fully funded, they were forced to fully fund food aid during the shutdown, it would hurt their political leverage in negotiations. Yeah. Feeding people is apparently now a bargaining chip, along with healthcare. And somewhere, empathy is filing a complaint with HR. Epstein files. After 50 days of delay, House Speaker Mike Johnson he finally swore in Alita Grajaba. And after her speech, she walked right over and signed the discharge position. Survivors and advocates say this could be a real breakthrough. Some more emails were released Legal AF and Katie Fang have some videos on what the emails say. A big thing to note is, if you remember Ghislaine Maxwell's testimony to the DOJ, and then these emails they got from the Epstein estate kind of contradict everything that she testified. And at the same time, there's still lingering questions about Epstein's financial ties. They've been able to link him to high-profile figures, including the former Israel Prime Minister Ehud Barak. Now, let's be clear. There's no confirmed public evidence or intelligence of him financing terrorists, but it's undeniable that Epstein's money danced in powerful international circles. The man networked like LinkedIn on Espresso, and that's saying something. I also want to bring up, remember Trump's border czar, Tom Homan? If you don't remember or you didn't hear, he was allegedly caught in an FBI sting where he accepted $50,000 in a cash bribe. And the DOJ closed the case claiming there's no credible evidence. People were asking where the money was. No response. And then poof, headline vanished. That's the playbook right now. They overwhelm the news cycle. They bury accountability, and they count on people to forget. There was even a clip recently where Steve Bannon admitted that if the Republicans lose power in the midterms, a lot of insiders, including himself, could be facing jail time. So yeah, while this story has gone quiet in the news, silence does not mean innocence. Sometimes it's just a really long coffee break in the swamp. So yeah, pour another cup. We're living in headlines that could give any political failure a run for its money. And they move so fast that even a day between writing and recording, it's already old news. We'll keep track as best we can. Let's talk about finding balance, because living with OCD does not mean that it gets to be the ringleader in your circus. It might try, but you're the one holding the tickets. Sure, some quirks can be useful. Organization, my research skills. I mean, anytime anybody wants to know anything, even if I don't know about it, they ask me about it, because research is just one of those things that's a double-edged sword. Attention to detail. But remember, these are tools, not rulers. Let the quirks be the crochet hook and not the pattern. The trick is knowing when to use them and when to tell them it is time for them to go take a nap, because you don't have time for them trying to run the show. My kids, they do online school. Me being a stay-at-home mom, structure is survival here. Sometimes my brain tries to turn into a relentless organizer. Does it come in handy? Yes. But I remind myself daily, the world won't collapse if their hours aren't logged right away. If when they were little, their crayons aren't sorted by color, or the spreadsheets aren't perfectly color-coded. It's about using my OCD traits to my advantage without letting them run the show. It's a daily juggling act that, keeps me sane. At the end of the day, surviving your own brain is not about perfection. It's about knowing what serves you and spotting what sabotages you and laughing at the chaos in the meantime. All right, it's time for our Shuffle Happens, where we ground out at the end. This week's card is Justice, and she does not come in quietly. So picture an ice temple. Steps, rocks, dusted with frost, leading up to this massive warrior queen. She looks like she just walked out of a Viking saga. She's tall, proud, and unyielding. Her crown blazes fire towards the ceiling, causing fog to curl around her throne as she stares straight ahead, deciding who is worthy of her judgment. On the steps below stands a warrior woman. She's in a fur-collared cloak, sword in one hand, staff in the other. She has fought her way to this moment, and she is standing tall, waiting for the queen to bestow justice. It is a scene of strength, determination, and a hard-earned right to claim balance. Upright, justice is truth, fairness, accountability, and balance. Exactly the clarity you need when your brain is running the OCD Olympics. Reversed, it warns of dishonesty, imbalance, or avoiding responsibility, ignoring the rules your mind needs to follow to find peace, or of letting compulsions run checked. For me, the Justice card ties directly into mental equilibrium. It reminds me I can honor my quirks and skills things my brain latches onto without letting them control me. I can use structure, organization, and even obsessive tendencies as tools, but I have to keep the sword and staff balanced in my hands. Otherwise, the fire of overthinking can burn out of control. So this week, Justice asked me to check my inner scales. Am I building with my mind's power or tipping toward chaos? It's a reminder to wield that warrior energy with fairness, especially towards myself. All right, everyone. That's a wrap for this week's episode of Coffee, Crochet, and Conversation. So remember, give yourself a little grace, be kind, do your best to stay balanced, and don't let chaos steal your coffee. Quick heads up, I'm probably going to take off the week of Thanksgiving. There should be a show next week, and then we're going to take a little break for the holiday. Use that time wisely, or just nap. As always, there's no judgment here. And yes, if you can, help me out gratefully by feeding the algorithm monster while we're at it. So share, like, comment, follow. It's whatever keeps this corner of the internet caffeinated and cozy. Until next time, keep your stitches sassy, your coffee strong, and your spirit grounded. We'll see you next week.